This is the On All Cylinders podcast,
powered by Summit Racing.
Your hosts for today are Summit Racing's Al Noe and Justin Wiederman, with special guest Cletus McFarland.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Summit Racing Equipment On All Cylinders podcast. I am Al Noe, joined by my friend and coworker Justin. Today we are going to be interviewing a great American success story, Garrett Mitchell, also known as the world famous Cletus McFarland.
Thanks for having me.
So first things first, we want to talk about how in the world did you come up with the character Cletus McFarland? It is epic and legendary at this point. What was happening? What went through your head? And you went, I got something here.
Well, I can start from the very beginning and I'll kind of shorten it up. But I used to work for a company called 1320 Video, still a great friend of mine, owned by a guy named Kyle Loftus. And I always made these goofy skits, and I was kind of the man behind, either the cameras or the social media and stuff. And Kyle filmed me doing a funny skit, and he said, "We're standing here with Cletus McFarland," and he just blurts out the name, and then I, made this funny joke about, being made in America, and so is my car. It was in front of Tom Bailey's Pro Mod Camaro, his 6-second street car Camaro. And Kyle posted the video thinking it was really funny, put it on Facebook, woke up to, a couple million hits and was just blown away. And all these, that was like when everyone just from that point forward was like, that's Cletus, so I loved it. And then I realized it's a lot easier to follow a guy named Cletus and enjoy a guy named Cletus and his funny, random things than a guy named Garrett. I don't know. It just is. It's like one of those things, and it just stuck. It's such a fun name to yell, and Cletus. I don't know. It just works really well for what I wanted to do. And as I started making videos, people started getting really into it, and I realized, this might be my calling, is being this guy named Cletus. And just started making my own videos. And Kyle from 1320 Video helped me start my own thing alongside my job, and just kind of put me on a path to success. Just working ever since.
So you've been around car stuff forever, right? I mean, how did you get into this back when you were a teenager or even before then?
Well, my passion for cars started when my dad was in an automotive business, taxi companies. So being around Crown Vics when I was a kid, it was like a dream to go to work with him on a Saturday and help mow. And then he'd let me move Crown Vics around in the yard, and he'd say, put these ones over here, bring this one in the shop. And, I was probably 7, 8 years old. My brother was 4 years older than me, and him and I would go out there and we'd be, backing them into each other on accident and just having a blast, but barely reach the pedals. And I got really into cars just from that tick, getting me started. And then when I turned 14 or 15 in Nebraska, you can drive when you're that age. And I was out driving, saw some guys having a car meet, just pulled up, and that's kind of how I met Kyle and all those guys from 1320 Video. And then when social media started rising, I asked if I could help out and started an Instagram for their page and stuff like that. And just one thing led to another. And then one day Kyle started paying me for my job and giving me more responsibilities, and just did my best until I could have my own thing.
So you've had a lifelong love of Crown Vics, and it's kind of, you've gone from moving them to owning a fleet of them, which is pretty neat.
All-time favorite car. Cool. People always say like, "Oh, Cletus, you must have the most Crown Vics out of anybody." And I'm like, no, my dad has me beat by years. Thousands of Crown Vics that man bought and sold. So he's a legend in the Crown Vic world.
So did you go a couple notches up on his list, Garrett, from owning all these Crown Vics? Was he like, that's my boy? How can you do better than that?
When I first talked to him about the race idea with all the Crown Vics, we just thought about it. We're like, there's just no better car. There's no better car for that task. And he had actually just sold his taxi company that he owned basically my whole life. It was funny because he's like, damn, I wish I would have sold you a bunch of the old cars. It just worked out.
So, Garrett, would you change anything along the way as you went through your path from being an enthusiast, 1320 Videos? Was there anything along the way you look back on and go, I might have changed this or done this different or done anything different?
Nothing major, because I really like where I am now. But I think when you become a content creator, there's like some really challenging times when you're small and don't have a lot of people to back you up. You go through this danger zone of not a lot of subscribers, but there's people watching, and a lot of people are really, mean. Just like crazy things. I've had everything under the sun said about me, and I think in those times, I wish I wouldn't have cared so much about what people said. and just kept doing my thing, which I did keep doing my thing. But some days it does, it can ruin your day. And that is just such a small blip on the radar, but I see it a lot of times. For me, it was a small blip on the radar because I was always the class clown. So, getting ridiculed, my whole life was just part of who I am. And I have no problem dealing with it. But a lot of younger guys get hit hard in that danger zone. They start to get a little bit of progression, you get a lot of excitement, and then people want to tear you down. That's just how this society works. And I see guys giving up all the time. They're like, I just can't handle the people, the hate. You can't make it in this industry without being able to just let that stuff brush off your shoulder. So, it did affect me a little bit, and I wish it didn't so much, but I got through it. And that's a lot of the reason why I'm able to do what I do today, is because I just don't care at all what people have to say about me. And people need to adopt that, because the internet is so brutal that you just have to adopt that mentality as you navigate these waters.
So anybody who's listening, be nice to Garrett. He's doing his best. He's putting everything together. He's making content.
It's once you make it to like 100,000 subscribers, then you have enough guys who are like, you know what, I like this guy. Like, don't say that about him. Then you're good. Then you're in the clear. But when you're in that danger zone and you're young and you're new to business, I mean, I'm sure you remember when you were first getting into business, something small happens and you're like, oh my gosh, like my career is over. Like this could be it. And then a year back, you're like, that was nothing. You're like, well, why would I get so concerned about it? So just gotta freaking keep your eyes on the road. So
when Garrett, did you hit that point where you went, wow, this is the real deal, and this is something I'm going to be doing for quite a while?
The real day that I turned on the whole thing and went from because I was in law school and just working my butt off to stay in law school and do the YouTube thing. The real turning point for me was I went to TX2K, a real big event out in Texas, and I drove my truck and trailer and my Corvette all the way out there to shoot some videos. And I had to be back Monday for tax law. And so I'm just hauling through the night, been up all night. I'm driving, and we got some delays. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make it in time. And I had already missed all the classes you could miss. And so we unloaded my C7 out of the trailer, and I took off. And that is much faster than, towing the truck and trailer and having to stop. And Cooper drove the truck and trailer the rest of the time. I got all the way to school. It's like 2 minutes to spare. I slam the door, run inside, and the professor turns on like a video that was an hour and a half long on tax law, like something I could have watched from home. And I remember walking out of class that day, and I just called my parents because that's my rock, my family. And I was like, hey guys, I'm just letting you know, like, this is it. I'm done with law school. I'm dropping out. It's my last semester, and I'm going full time with the YouTube thing. And my parents, didn't have so much resistance because they were excited for me. But I did get calls from, my grandparents and stuff. They're like, what are you doing? You're chasing this dream to be this guy named Cletus on the internet. Like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I just had to make that call. I was starting to make some decent money to pay for everything I was doing. And, there's so much good support from the people watching. And I just was like, you know what? I got to do what I want to do here. Definitely not stay in law school. Just started making videos every day, and the rest is history.
So do you have any in all the builds and projects, Garrett? And we could probably spend a whole nother segment well over an hour just talking about the builds and projects. Do you have any that were like your worst nightmare?
Yeah, I have one that I feel like tops everybody's nightmare story. We built Toast, our burnout car, 2 years ago. 632 big block, all the right parts, all the right stuff. Put a big blower on it because we wanted to go over to Australia and compete in their burnout contest, Summer Nats. And we built the car pretty fast. Like, we had to have it done in a month and a half to put it in a container to go to Australia. And, the event is relying on us because we're promoting that we're going to be there. All the sponsors who helped get the car together relying on the fact that we're going. I'm heavily invested in it. The viewers are heavily invested in it. Car's having major problems. I mean, hurting the motor on the dyno a couple days before it was supposed to leave. Overnight in pistons, overnight in bearings, the whole nine, slapping it together, getting barely any sleep, and then putting it in a container and not done. So now I got to wait 6 weeks to get there. And then I'm getting pictures of the car at the port that fans had taken the car out of the container to take photos with it. I don't even know where it is. Someone just posted on Facebook. And like the car is in a container that's tagged. It's not supposed to be out of the container until it's in the possession of the event's hands. So I'm seeing pictures of the car before it's even arrived in Sydney, Australia. So, like, you can imagine my stress went from, all right, this car is got problems, to, like, now, am I even going to get my car? At this point, I'm like, hopefully they just steal the thing, because then I can go over there and just drive someone else's car, you know? So, whatever. They end up getting the car. There was some minor damage to it from shipping. I don't even care, because it's just third-gen Camaro. Like, it was already a little bit beat up. And we get there. We finally get the thing started up on some Australian methanol. Thing's smoking out the breeder, like, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing's toast. You know, the crank pickup was given a false RPM, false rev limiter, and just problem after problem. But we were out of time. They're like, it's time for you to do your skid. I'm like, whatever. I pull up, man. There's like freaking 40,000 people. It's our biggest event of the year. And I freaking light tires off, tip it in. The back of the car starts a tire fire. Huge tire fire. I mean, the whole back of the car is up in flames. I stayed in it for about 5 more seconds. Motor completely blows up. And I hit the wall. So we're talking 10 seconds. I caught the car on fire, blew the motor, and wrecked it in a different country. That took, 3 months to get the car there and us there. So 10 seconds, blown up, crashed, on fire. And I just got out, and I'm like, at least we did something cool, So the crowd was super fired up about it, because it was really cool. I mean, it blew up, made this massive fire, and then this horrific sound when it blew up. So they were all fired up. But then it was like, we're there for another week, which was too much time for me to not do anything. So I freaking called up a parts distributor over there, found a motor, big block, drove 3 hours back to Sydney, got this big block, drove back. Whole 9 yards is we stayed up all night, got a motor in it, went back out the next day. The car had like no brakes. So I pulled up, I had no brakes, tried to tip it in, drove it around for a while, got walled up, blew the tires, and that was it. That was still good though. So the motor was still running after that, but man, it was a freaking battle.
But now look where it is. Like you have,
now it rips,
big inch blown motor. It's Summer Nats ready. It's you can compete with things like the Killer Bee or like that kind of stuff. That's super cool.
Yeah, but I mean, man, it was a freaking stressful situation getting it to where it is today.
So Garrett, on the opposite of that, do you have a favorite car? You got a lot, know.
I definitely have a favorite. That'd be Leroy, my bodyless Corvette.
That's pretty iconic, isn't it?
It's just the one, man. It's like the one car that I learned to drag race in, the car that I rose with for my whole channel, the car that, is most notable out of the whole group. It's the most fun for me to drive. It's definitely the most violent and crazy and exciting. Just when Leroy's running good, man, it's like, that's the best.
So going from Leroy to the El Camino, it's Leroy that's all stripped down and it's bare, it's race car. Is the like getting in the El Camino, is it like driving a Cadillac?
Yeah, it's luxury. But I built it to be that way because, I wanted something that was easier on us on race week, something that was dialed in, because when we're on those big, long drag week trips, we're editing every day and filming every day. So worrying a little bit less about the car is nice. I'm always down for a party. Taking one of the cars, it's more difficult. But when you take the Elko, it's a good chance you're not going to have to work on it all week, which is nice.
So Garrett, what year vet is Leroy? Because you can't tell by looking at it, obviously.
Yeah, it's actually it's a C5, and it's crazy. It's 2001. It has this placard on it. It says last car built in 2001. So I guess Leroy's the last ever 2001 C5.
Wow.
I don't know. I was like,
increase the value of it tenfold, right?
It's going to end up in the vet museum one day.
It might, that'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
So Garrett, you've done a lot of different racing, and what do you want to do next? Like, what have you not done yet where you look around and the whole spectrum of stuff to race and you say, I got to try that?
I really want to go over to like New Zealand or Australia and race those pro sprint jet boats. The ones where it's like the big lake and it's got all the pass and there's passengers going like this and they're going, that's pretty high on my list.
It looks like when them guys are racing it and you have your passenger, your navigator going, it looks like there's a lot going on in the office in that little boat.
Yeah, I'm like, how does this guy know the route? Like, there's so many turns. I don't know how they know the turns. I just want to go do that for sure. I love jet boats, so.
Now, speaking of overseas racing, I know, went to Summer Nats and did that. Is there any skills, you see those guys tip those cards in and slide them like they do. Yeah. Is there anything that, translates from like your drift, you've got recently into drifting that kind of, is there a similar driving style or is it apples to oranges?
Yeah, no, I think drifting is definitely probably the closest thing. It's kind of hard. I think there's a lot of like just luck and burnouts. I mean, when you tip a car over, like when when you enter and you're doing like 40 or 50 mile an hour and you tip it in, like there is a good chance you're going to lose control right then and there. So it just kind of is how the car comes around, because the pad varies in grip all day. And some cars vary in grip and power. And if you have issues, I don't know. I think a lot of it's like its own driving set. And a drift car, you're really not doing that style of stuff, just letting the car go wherever it wants to go. But I'm surprised at how much skill it does take to like do a legit. If you went and watched like a pro level burnout in Australia, burnouts don't seem like they can be like a skill based thing. But you watch like a guy, like a beginner guy, do a burnout, and then you watch one of these pros do it in Australia, and you're like, holy crap, like, that was amazing. Like that guy just, I don't know, it's just impressive. Like these guys do some crazy stuff. It's pretty cool.
I can safely say I've never seen a sad person doing a burnout. So
yeah, that's true. Sometimes I just like when you're on the return road and you're pissed off of your drag car, I'll just floor it and just light the tires like 100 feet. I mean, you shouldn't do that, but sometimes I just have to.
So recently, you've made your fastest pass you've had in the El Camino. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's the El Camino's developed for you.
Yeah, and we're pretty pumped on the El Camino. We actually found out that the rear end was in a bind yesterday. So that could be a problem. We were having a lot of problems with traction. Like we'd make the car go 60 feet and then blow the tires off. So we've just been battling that. It's not that there's a power is an issue or. Car has everything. It just couldn't get down the track.
Yeah, I've seen recently you guys have battled suspension setup issues, and that's something important. Chassis setup is just as important as building a big motor or spending a bunch of money on parts. Having someone that knows how to set up a car and setting up a car right is just as crucial as essentially spending money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all my other cars have just been like stock suspension stuff. So to have a 4-lane car and learning all that, I'm like, geez. Didn't realize how important this stuff was. All my other cars, I just kind of put stuff on and try it. And if it works, it works. This thing is like, if you don't have it right, it's not going to go down.
So Garrett, do you have any plans? I know that if you look in the automotive space right now, there's a lot of talk about electric vehicles, EV this, EV that, EV swap, do this, do that. Any interest in that stuff at all?
I mean, I do think that the instant torque is cool. But there's a lot missing, that like it's the fun part about racing is the sounds. But I mean, man, it'd be nice to not have to work on my stuff much, but it would also suck to get zapped really bad. So, I mean, they each have their pros and cons. I think no matter what, the electric stuff is coming. How long it's going to take to catch the fast combustion stuff, I don't know. But we're ready to do whatever. Like, I think there's an electric car in our future. I just don't know how much it's going to cost. That's the thing is like, how much is it going to cost drag racers to build an electric car? You can basically make anything work out of a junkyard right now. So it's hard to say. So I don't know. I just kind of have been sitting back and watching, and I'll do whatever is fun and exciting. And right now, electric is not fun and exciting for me. So.
It is funny because I mentioned we had Don Garlitz on earlier this year, and he and other people have had a goal to go 200 in an electric dragster, basically. You think about that today, and it's like, how many guys go 200 on like drag week? I mean, it's just like matter of course. And here you have Don Garlitz, one of the most ingenious, inventive people ever in racing, and he's struggling to get to 200. Yeah. How about, speaking of people that we've met and people you've met, have you met anybody where you've met them and said, I cannot believe that I'm sitting here talking to this person?
I'd say for sure my biggest one, I've always had a couple of guys on my list that I wanted to meet. That'd be Adam Savage from Mythbusters, Jeremy Clarkson, Jay Leno, and Travis Pastrana. Like, those were my top 4. And this year I got to meet Travis Pastrana. And he rolls up to the track, and like I knew he was coming, so I was all excited. He came into the track and was just like, what's up, man? I was like, what's up? And he's just like, hanging out. He gets in his limo and starts drifting it. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Travis Pastrana's here. I'm like, I'm going to go get in my car. And we started drifting together. He's everything I ever thought he would be and more. And this is amazing. That's just it was cool. So I still, I've done a couple things with him since, but I'm still like really excited whenever I get to hang out with him.
Let's talk a little bit about the Freedom Factory. Did you ever think 5 years ago, did you ever think you were going to be a racetrack owner?
No, I knew about the Freedom Factory, but I never even imagined it as a place for us, because Bradenton Motorsports Park, the drag strip we're always at, is connected to the Freedom Factory. So I always saw it back there, and I was like, man, that place is shot. I'm like, that place is cooked. You drive by, it's abandoned. And I always wondered kind of what the deal was. I knew that, it had gone bankrupt and shut down in 2017, and just never clicked to me. But as, YouTube and the law cracks down on doing stuff on the street, it affects your monetization, things like that. I really did need a place to start doing stuff. And one night I was at dinner with Victor, the owner of the drag strip, and we were talking about it. And I was like, dude, that's honestly the perfect place for me to do all my stuff. He's like, yeah, you're kind of right. And so luckily the track had been for sale for 2 years already. So I called the owner up and we made a deal. And that was it. It just happened that fast, like a week.
Yeah, and you went into it running. So the track was in, a little bit of a state of disrepair. You've put bleachers in, lights, you repaved parts of the track. You've gone tenfold into this.
I just love having people there. It's like the best place ever for spectators. It only holds a little bit of spectators. It's such a small racetrack, but the people who do get in just have the best time ever. So I love that aspect of it. And
it's very cool to see someone like you keeping, like I said, a local racetrack alive, because we've all grown up with our local racetrack.
Yeah, it sucks seeing them close left and right. So it's exciting when they do pop back up. I wish I could support more tracks, honestly. It's tough, man. Going back to the internet people, they're all complaining and moaning that these tracks are closing, but they haven't gone there for 5 years. You know what I mean? I try to make it out to every event that I possibly can, even if I, just pop in for 10 minutes, just to support and show some love. Bradenton, we are lucky to have super strong tracks, but there's places in this country where it's not looking so good for, their racetracks, and people got to step up and go out and support. That's the only way to keep them going.
Everything starts on the racetrack. And if we don't keep those little guys around, it's like I said, it's not good.
Well, and a lot of people think, like, they watch, say, an NHRA national events, it's televised, it's on TV. And a lot of people think, well, I go to my local track and I don't see that. Well, you think of racing like a big triangle. That NHRA grouping is the top maybe 10% of that triangle. Yeah. The other 90% of the people that are at their local tracks, bracket racing every weekend, or doing fastest streetcar shootout stuff, no prep events, whatnot. There are so many different ways, though, to get out and enjoy it. And Garrett, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is important for people to go out and participate and go to your local track. And when you look down the road and you see a track closing and people go, oh, that was terrible, you got a great point. When was the last time you went out there? When was the last time you supported it and went out to see a race on a Saturday and actually did some things out there? Whether you race or whether you just spectate, doesn't matter either way, but that track's got so much overhead that it's somehow got to pay for. And if people stop going, they can't pay their bills. So it is most important to support your local racetracks. We're real fortunate that we've got a couple tracks around us, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of places in the U.S. that don't have the support for their local tracks. And rather than seeing these die, I think all of us need to be going out and participating in our tracks and getting out and supporting the owners. It's super important. And we can't lose sight of that, or else they're not going to be around.
Yep.
So with Les Mullets, I wanted to ask you, the last event, a lot of competition. I don't want to say a lot of controversy, but it was a lot of good racing, especially at the end. Are you noticing the racers a lot more smack talking, a lot more people saying, I'm coming to take my win, and I'm coming, Garrett, I'm bringing it? Or are they still kind of chill and kind of a relaxed environment, or is it getting pretty competitive?
There's a couple racers who have now been out there like 3 or 4 times and gotten 5th to 3rd place. So I think there's a lot of people gunning for Les Mullets. I personally think I need a win. I won the first Freedom 500, but I'm coming for a win at Les Mullets. Me and Bowman talked about it. We're not playing around. We're going to try and get a W. But there's a lot of good teams. So we're going to really stress this one not to be a crash 'em up derby and try and make it like a really sick race. So I'm excited to see what happens.
So you look ahead to 2023. Think you'll do similar events, or is it way too early to tell and you got to get through this year before you speculate into next year?
Well, I think we have some really cool stuff lined up. We're always trying to build new stuff. And I think we're going to switch from Crown Vics to something else that I have in mind. So I think there's some good stuff coming up. just can't say anything about it yet.
I understand. Top secret.
So obviously, your core love of racing starts with drag racing. How is you ran both Rocky Mountain Race Weeks this year in two different cars. Let's talk a little bit about that and how it is, with your first one running it in the Elco and then running Leroy in the second one.
Yeah, I mean, they're two different experiences, right? You got auto car, simple, but you got transmission temps to worry about. We're in the mountains. We had brakes to worry about, pulling a trailer through the mountains with a heavy car. Leroy can obviously engine brake because it's stick shift pretty easily. So, the El Camino has its own problems, and then Leroy has its own problems. Leroy is pretty easy on the street, but we had some vibrations in the clutch, so we had to drive at certain RPM, certain gears to keep the vibration down.
That clutch swap looked grueling, and you and Brett, I felt for you guys. It was really cool for the lift guy to come in clutch though when you had to pull it back out.
Yeah, luckily Brent is just like a lifesaver, man. That guy, him and I together, like I couldn't do without him, man. He's co-piloted
for you like a couple times now. You guys have really
every Rocky Mountain Race Week, Brent has been my co-pilot. And then Kevin went on drag week with me, but Brent and I have done them all together. So we plan on just keep on doing all the race weeks together, and we just have the best time. Cruising down the road with your headsets on, talking smack to the boys in the other cars. And, everyone's breaking down. You can't help each other. It's just so fun. It's the best.
So we've talked a lot about on land stuff, but one of your other hobbies is, in the water. You guys have jet boats, and you guys are doing a jet boat challenge. Let's talk about that a little bit and the differences between, say Jack Stan's big block boat compared to your boat to the other guys.
Yeah, the boat stuff's just so fun, man. We built those little mini jet boats thinking they would be a fun side project, but they get more views than our race car stuff. So we're like, all right, well, we'll do more boat content in the summers. And just did the $2,500 boat challenge, which we still have to finish next week. But, I really enjoy boating myself. So to get out, and I think all the guys do. So to get out on the water is like a really nice change up from the normal turning wrenches every day that they do. And, I don't mind getting away from the desk and editing and stuff to just go spend 6 or 8 hours on the water. Who wouldn't? So it's awesome.
Yeah, and it seems like you've really assembled a great team over, like I said, you guys got a new shop. You're over there. Got that fun paint scheme on the front of the building. That's real loud. Yeah, I saw you guys had a visitor in your shop the other day, a deer. That was super cool.
Yeah, man, this place is a blessing. I'm in the shop right now. It's amazing. Like all our cars are here, all our tools are here, all in one place. We have everything we need. All the guys come in, and everyone's got a smile on their face. It's just locked and loaded. Best place ever. We're killing it and just having fun. And the track is next door, so like. Literally right now, I'm about to get in my Ranger and go practice for the Danger Ranger 9000. So it's going to be fun, just pop right over.
So Garrett, do you have any alligators on the property? I remember another really famous person reading his book, Smokey Eunuch, and at his shop in Daytona, they had an alligator that would come into the shop, and on a Friday night, they'd go pull the alligator out from under the bench and have wrestling time. It's a great story. If you ever get a chance to read Smokey Eunuch's book, it's awesome. But I'm guessing, I don't know if you wrestle alligators, but being where you're located at, you probably have some on the property. And if they ever come out on the surface when you're in the middle of drifting or something, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to hit the alligator.
We've had one gator in the track, and it was a little one that a bird brought in. But other than that, the only things we've had in the track, we have a lot of raccoons. There's gators around. We have gators in the ditches, but not in the racetrack, only in the ditches outside and in the ponds. We've had a couple gators removed from ponds on the track properties just because they had like babies and stuff. So it was like an infestation. And that's when you want to move them before they get everywhere. But I get them at my house. I get them all over. We haven't wrestled with any. I did get attacked by a deer last week. So that was probably the most wildlife we've had. That was on the YouTube channel. You can check that out. And then we saw, there's a gator in yesterday's video on the jet boats. So there's a lot of wildlife in Florida that's just around the shop all the time. It's pretty funny.
Garrett, out of all the cars you own, what do you not have that today, if you could say, I want to buy that right now? And there's always stuff, I know, because I love watching when you do a reveal like, look what followed me back to the shop, and you have a jet boat or whatever.
It's easy. I already have that one dialed in. Superbird, yeah. We drove, so that Tesla we had, we went down to Arkansas and we were dumb enough to drive the thing down there and do the charge along the way and all that stuff.
But we get down there, we go to the land speed event. We met some guys from a place called the Garage Shop out of North Carolina. And it's the coolest thing. They took a Superbird body and a Ford Talladega Torino, and they reignited the Aero Wars on modern Cup chassis. And if you get a chance, I'll give them a shout out. Aaron, the guys down there are unbelievably talented fabricators. I think if I remember right, the Superbird went like 224 in the mile, and the Talladega went like 225. It was so close. Super cool. It was really awesome.
That's cool.
That car is one of my favorites. So I've always loved the wing cars. The Daytonas and Superbirds are just so cool.
I know. And to think they were like hard to sell when they first came out. And
right. You've seen the pictures of the dealer lots that they're all sitting there and all the crazy colors.
It's so cool. I don't know. It just blows my mind. Like that even makes it more desirable, you know. Like,
there's something about 4 foot of wing in a Hemi and a Mopar that just, you know, that's something that
you can't go wrong with that.
I'm all about it. Just like that puts a smile on anybody's face.
Those things are so long, they might not even fit in our workshop. I mean, they're the biggest cars known to man.
Huge.
The nose adds like 2.5 feet onto them. And those cars are super cool, though. I love those. Garrett, would yours be kind of a stock resto, or no? You want to mod it and probably put a turbo or two on it?
Yeah, I got some ideas. I definitely wouldn't leave it alone. We'd do something fun.
Garrett, anything else? Any other topics you want to cover? We've covered a lot of material today.
Yeah, no, I think we've crushed it. So thanks, guys. See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
This has been the On All Cylinders podcast.
Powered by Summit Racing.
Check out new episodes coming soon at OnAllCylinders.com.
OnAllCylinders.com.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.